إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له وما يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Indeed, my dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, all praise and glory is due to Allah Azza wa Jal. We praise Him, we glorify Him, we seek His aid, we seek refuge with Allah Azza wa Jal from the evil inclinations of our own souls and from the evil inclinations of our own actions. Whomsoever Allah Azza wa Jal guides, none can ever misguide. And on the contrary, whomsoever Allah Azza wa Jal misguides, none can ever guide. And I bear witness and I testify that there is no deity except for Allah Azza wa Jal alone, Al-Wahid, Al-Ahad, Al-Awwal, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His final messenger and most beloved servant. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ونعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ثم أما بعد. My brothers and sisters in Islam, I'm going to start today by sharing with you a narrative, a story, and then we'll see how this applies to Muslims and how we prioritize our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. So here's a story, here's a narrative. So a father and his daughter, they're going to school, yeah? The child is maybe 4 or 5 years old, okay? And the father is driving his daughter to school. And on the way, they have this habit. On the way, they work on memorizing Surah Rahman together, okay? So they're reciting the first several ayat, and every time the فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, the daughter just, gets excited, says فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, okay? And then she goes off. Then one day, this goes on. This has been happening for a while, many months, okay? All of a sudden, this 5-year-old, poor 5, she surprises the dad and says, "Hey Dada, what does this mean? What does this mean, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ?" And so the father explains, he says, you know how you have your mom, your dad, you know how you have your nice bed, you know how you have this nice school you're going to, this nice car, everything you want, you always have it. These are the bounties, these are the gifts that Allah Azza wa Jal has given to you. Can you deny any of them? Can you deny any of them? She said, she just didn't say anything. 5 minutes go by, and she says, "Dada, that's فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ." She points at birds flying in the sky and says, "That's فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ." Then she points at the trees. "Dada, that's فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ." Then she points at the sky. "That's فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ." "Dada, this car, that's فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ." So my brothers and sisters in Islam, this 5-year-old, children, when they process information, yeah, they have a very pure, unjaded, unclouded way of seeing things, seeing the essence of the meaning of things, yeah? Now some of you might be thinking, this is a special case. Here's the point, right? You might be thinking, wow, this is special. And this, I would argue, my brothers and sisters in Islam, or I would argue, we should not think this is special. By special, I mean uncommon. This is not to be considered uncommon. We would only think this is special if our standard is so low that this is something we don't find commonplace. This is something that should be common in every Muslim household. This is something that should be common across all the Muslim children across the world. You know why? Because the bare minimum of upholding the conditions of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah demand that this is the common thing that you see across all Muslim households. Because why? What is فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ? Essentially, this is the teaching of Tawheed, is it not? And if you raise your children in a household where you're constantly reminding them, and granted, keep in mind, this took many months before the child even said this. This took many months of hearing this ayat. You don't just hear it once, or you wait till you're a teenager and you just hear it then, and then you say, what does this mean? This is an exemplification of how Tawheed is transmitted. The same way Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam took 13 years to transmit the concept of Tawheed to the Sahaba. Before what? They were prescribed to pray. Because how are you going to commit to prioritize Allah Azza wa Jal? And how are you going to commit to understanding the pillars of Tawheed if you don't work upon it? If this is not ingratiated into your soul, into your fiber, into how you think, how you process information. You know, there are 3 pillars of Tawheed, right? Tawheed Al-Rububiyyah, which means the oneness of the lordship of Allah Azza wa Jal. Tawheed Al-Uluhiyyah, which is the oneness in the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. And Tawheed Al-Sifat, the attributes and the names of Allah Azza wa Jal. Where we fail, my brothers and sisters in Islam, to uphold the Tawheed is the Tawheed Al-Uluhiyyah. Why? When we say there is no one to be worshipped except for Allah Azza wa Jal, what this really means, my brothers and sisters in Islam, is that nothing and no one or anything can be prioritized above Allah Azza wa Jal. Make sense? You agree? Can anybody deny that? It means that nothing can be prioritized above Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the core pillar, the central pillar of Tawheed. What is Tawheed? There is no La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah without this concept of Tawheed. And yes, Hadith Sahih, Tawheed is so central, such an essential part of our iman, of our belief system, that yes, Hadith Sahih, the one who says La ilaha illallah and dies with belief in it, he shall enter paradise. Yeah? So yes, there is this special circumstance where Allah Azza wa Jal selects those few who on their deathbed take the Shahada and they believe in this and they pass away. That is for Allah Azza wa Jal to bless them with paradise, and that is His choice. But we can't take this to say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to neglect my responsibilities. Yeah, I believe in Allah, but I'm just, going to neglect it, and maybe inshallah Allah on my deathbed, let me renew my covenant with you on my deathbed, and then enter me into paradise, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Yeah? Yes, maybe you can bank on that. Maybe you can bank on that because Allah Azza wa Jal is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. But let me put this into perspective for you, okay? Do you want, on the Yawm Al-Qiyamah, do you want to show up with some shred of dignity, with some shred of humility and dignity that you can say to Allah Azza wa Jal, Ya Rabbil Alameen, you have created me weak. Indeed, you have created me and all mankind in the state of kabad, in the state of distress and fluctuation. But Ya Rabbil Alameen, I have done my best. I know I have many shortcomings. There is no shortness in my shortcomings. But I have felt guilty, Ya Rabbil Alameen, for all those times when I could not perfectly fulfill my obligations to you, Ya Rabbil Alameen. And I felt guilty for all those times I lacked khushu in my salat, Ya Rabbil Alameen. But Ya Allah, I did pray. I did present myself by your grace at every single 5 daily salawat. I upheld this. I upheld my relationship with the Quran, Ya Rabbil Alameen. I upheld to the pillars of La ilaha illallah to the best of my ability. But yes, Ya Rabbil Alameen, I have faltered, no doubt. Would you like to be this person and say, and by the way, Ya Rabbil Alameen, regardless of what I have done, in spite of what I have done, my salvation is through your mercy and only by the grace of your mercy, Ya Rabbil Alameen. And therefore grant me into Firdaus al-A'la, because I don't deserve it, but by your mercy and your rahmah, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allow me to be with the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, be amongst those in Firdaus al-A'la, Ya Rabbil Alameen. So when we ask Allah Azza wa Jal, we only ask for the best. Al-Firdaus al-A'la. That's it. Would you like to be of this people on the right hand, or would you rather be on the left? To say, Ya Allah, you're merciful. I didn't do what you asked me. Yes, I messed up. But you know, you're merciful, Ya Allah. Please just give me Jannah, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Just give it to me. You have no dignity. You have no shred of dignity if you're doing this. You have not done your part. You have not taken your deen seriously. And if the only thing you're holding on to is, Allah, yes, you are in my heart. I said La ilaha illallah and I believe you're merciful and therefore, please, Ya Allah, let me in. Maybe, because Allah Azza wa Jal is yet still so merciful, maybe, just maybe, He still might let you into paradise. Yes. But ask yourself, do you want to be the one without any dignity when you're asking Allah Azza wa Jal? Do you want to be this person who is at complete risk? Maybe you didn't do anything special to please Allah Azza wa Jal. Maybe you were so negligent Allah Azza wa Jal is displeased with you. And yes, by His mercy He can still allow you to enter, but you are at risk, my brothers and sisters in Islam. Only Allah Azza wa Jal can judge, but we have to put this into perspective. Are we upholding the concept of Tawheed in our daily dealings? And I'll tell you one thing, and I'm sorry, but I have to say this because we have to learn, yeah? There are many people in our adulthood, they are doing things either unknowingly or they're just completely ignorant of it, yeah? The other day, last Jummah or 2 Jummahs ago, there are some brothers that were sitting in the back. They were on their cell phone the entire time. The entire duration of the Jummah, you're on your cell phone doing what? That's your business. And it's your business, you can completely do that. You're an adult, you can make this decision. But you know what you just did? You did not uphold Tawheed Al-Uluhiyyah. You were worshipping your phone. You were not prioritizing that you're here for Allah. Whatever is on your cell phone is more important to you than being here to please Allah. Why are you here at this? Ask yourself, what are you gaining out of the Jummah? It is incumbent upon you to sit during the Jummah and listen to the Khateeb from the moment he stands up to the moment he finishes. If not, there is no reward in your Jummah. If you play, if you look, and even if you say salam to your brother next to you, your Jummah is invalidated. So my brothers and sisters, if you're talking right now even, you are missing the purpose. As I share this information, there are brothers that are talking to each other. Are we that deaf, dumb, and blind that we do not care about our akhirah? And it's true, when you see this, as I'm talking, I see this example in front of my face. Again, I am not the type, I don't have the personality to call people out like this, okay? But it's for your own benefit, my brothers and sisters in Islam, because we have to hurt. When we see this, we have to hurt for each other. We have to hurt that, shaitan, his waswas is in you so hard that you can't see clearly. Your judgment is completely clouded. You're going through deep fog and you don't even realize it. So what are you expecting to gain out of Jummah? Because if you're here because Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said He's going to burn down your house if you don't come to Jummah, that means you have to uphold the pillars of the Jummah. The same way, when you're saying I'm Muslim, you have to uphold the pillars of Islam. You have to uphold the pillars of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. You can't say, this brings me to another example. Sometimes as children, we we don't process information. Some things we don't process when we're at this early age, but later on, once we know more, we start having flashbacks. As I was thinking about this khutbah and thinking about the example of the father and the child I talked about, I was also thinking about a time when I was young, maybe 7, 8, 9 years old, and I was in a gathering where the adults were talking, and I remembered one of the adults, it was around Ramadan, and they weren't fasting, and they were like, see that kid right there? He's like just entered adolescence. He fasts 30 days, and he prays 5 times. Wow, that is so special. That is so special. And now I'm thinking, at that time I was like, maybe I will be special like this too. Maybe I'll be one of those kids who can fast all the time and pray all the time. Subhanallah. But now I think about it, this is such a wrong mindset, my brothers and sisters in Islam. We think that you are just Muslim by default. If you're born into Islam, you are by default Muslim. That's it. La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. That's it. I'm Muslim. That's it. There are responsibilities you have to uphold if you want all the benefits that go along with taking this shahada. Yeah? This is what the majority of the Muslim world misses, my brothers and sisters in Islam. That's why our core focus has to be on Tawheed all the time. All the time. If not, we are at risk of, again, being of the people of the left instead of the people of the right. The people who at least have a shred of dignity versus those who have no dignity. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله ولي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وصلى الله عليه وسلم. So my brothers and sisters in Islam, the last couple of khutbahs, I was talking to you about befriending the Quran, reading the Quran regularly, memorizing the Quran, memorizing the ayat of the Quran. Why would you do this if you have not connected to Tawheed? Why would you prioritize this if your priority is on everything else in dunya, your work, other things? I get it. It's stressful. My brothers and sisters in Islam, every single one of us go through this. We have stress in life. We go through ups and downs. Sometimes it's good, sometimes we're so stressed out, we don't know we can't focus properly. We can't think. Just probably before we came here, we're dealing with problems that are messing with our minds. Yeah? This is what we have to feel guilty about. We have to feel guilty that when we stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jal and these things are troubling us, and we're not focused on our khushu', that's what we have to constantly feel guilty about. That is the jihad al-nafs. And there are times, yes, we have khushu', but how much you can actually count on your hands the times in your lives when you prayed and you had khushu'. Most of the time, it's always distraught. We have to fight against that, and we have to feel guilty. Ya Allah, why am I not connected to you? Allow me. Take care of my hygiene factors, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Take care of all the things that I need to be taken care of. So when I come to you, Ya Rabbil Alameen, I am focused. I am focused exclusively on my connection with you and you alone in everything that I do. When it's time for salawat, I want to be in the salawat more than the air that I breathe. More than the air that I breathe, I want to be present to stand to worship you, Ya Rabbil Alameen. And my worship shouldn't stop, it should be constant 24/7. My tongue should be wet in your dhikr. 24/7, 365 days a year, non-stop. That is what we should feel guilty constantly that we are not at that state. If you do that, then maybe you'll have some shred of dignity when you go stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. So my brothers and sisters in Islam, let me remind you again, on the day of judgment, again a reminder for that challenge I gave you. You should be already done memorizing Surah Al-Mulk by now. If you're not, get started. 1 line a day, 1 line a day. Read the Quran, study the Quran, befriend the Quran, because the Quran will come to you on the day of resurrection as an intercessor for its companions. Because you know why? The day of judgment is equivalent to 50,000 years. يومئذ كان مقداره 50,000 سنة. We can't even spend 100 years on this earth without being able to deal with the trivial trials and tribulations. You know the trials and tribulations of 50,000 years? That's the day of judgment, 50,000 years. And we're busy over here wasting our Jummah and talking to our friends and staying on the cell phone. 50,000 years. You don't want a companion for 50,000 years to make that transit easy for you? The Quran will act as a source of light and an advocate for those who recited it and lived by it. And for those who have memorized, Allah Azza wa Jalla will say recite and ascend. So every ayat that you have memorized and you recite, you will ascend one level in the Jannah. Each level is better than anything the earth has to offer. Understand this. Okay? The levels in the seven heavens, every level is equivalent to an entire universe. This is what we give up. This is what we forget about. When we don't uphold Tawheed in general, specifically Tawheed Al-Uluhiyyah. The prioritization in the worship and ibadah and remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal above anything and everything and all else. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله ولي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. اللهم يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. اللهم يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. اللهم يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. اللهم أجرهم في مصيبتي في فلسطين يا رب العالمين. اللهم أجرهم في مصيبتي في غزة يا رب العالمين. اللهم أجرهم في مصيبتي في كل مكان في الأرض يا رب العالمين. اللهم أسألك لهم العافية يا رب العالمين. اللهم أسألك لهم الفردوس الأعلى يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا أعوذ بك من العذاب الكبر وعذاب جهنم ومن الفتنة المحيا والممات ومن شر فتنة المسيح الدجال يا رب العالمين. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافينا فيمن عافيت وتولانا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا شر ما قضيت فإنه تقضي ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من وليت ولا يعز من أديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت. وقيموا